It's time to start rallying around America's young conservatives and explore what it means to be a young Republican in the 21st century. In a world where it seems like everyone under 30 must be a liberal, these are the stories you haven't heard before from the voices of America's young conservatives. So let's find out what it truly means to be raised right. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Raised Right podcast. I'm your host, Rae'Lee, and I'm here at Turning Point USA's Young Women's Leadership Conference. I have the opportunity to meet over 2,500 of the nation's most conservative and powerful women, and I'm going to interview a few of them, talk to them about how the conference has been, and have them share their thoughts with you about what it's like to attend an event like this. Let's see what they have to say.
Hi, I'm Maria Young. I'm from Ohio, and I'm 14.
It's so nice to have you on the Raised Right podcast, Rory. So first question, what does being raised right mean to you?
Raised right, in my opinion, means that you were raised by people who taught you how to work hard and how to value things, and that you can't just be given everything. So
that's great. I love that. What's the best lesson you've learned since you've been here?
Since I've been here, work hard, and not really a lesson, but these are some of the best people that you can meet, and this is definitely a group that I want to be associated with.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Yeah. So last question here really quick. What would be a piece of advice that you could share to other young conservatives who maybe couldn't be here or struggling to find their place in the world?
Definitely. Just remember your values and don't let anybody else tell you what you can believe, what you're allowed to believe, because it's your opinion and it's okay to believe in something amazing. So
awesome. Well, thank you, Rory.
I'm Stanley. I'm 20 years old and I'm from Phoenix, Arizona.
So Lily and I actually kind of work together. She's on the Turning Point side and she's great, but I really wanted to have her on to talk about something that I think is so important. We get bombarded with this idea of feminism and being for women.
Right.
But if you truly believe that, you align more with the conservative ideology.
Absolutely.
And I think you're the person to talk about
Absolutely.
this.
Well, I'm a collegiate athlete at my university and I've really had a struggle watching how the feminist movement has destroyed women's sports in particular, which is quite interesting given they're feminists, but we have seen a whole trend of men identifying as women and taking our titles, taking our spots on teams, getting our scholarships, winning trophies and actual national titles. And you'd think that the feminists would freak out and say, that's the patriarchy winning at every cost. And they're not. They're supporting it, they're endorsing it, they're encouraging it, they're putting it into legislation. And we really have to support women and women in sports in particular, and that is conservatism. True feminism is conservatism, and they go hand in hand, and the left has hijacked that.
Yeah, absolutely. So one final question for you. What advice would you give to other young conservatives out there who couldn't be here, struggling to find their place?
Yeah.
What would you say?
Find truth. Find what you believe in, and contest for truth, fight for truth, and spread it like wildfire, because it'll go in your favor.
I'm Michaela Young from Springfield, Missouri, and I'm 26.
Awesome. What would you say is the best thing that you've learned since you've been here?
I've just been so inspired by the strength that we've been talking about, the strength of conservative women and the power we really have to go out and change the world.
Definitely. What would you give? What advice would you give to any young conservatives out there that are kind of scared to stand up for their beliefs but should?
Just be you. There's this huge community behind you that you may not see right now, but if something were to happen, we'd all be behind you. We'd all have your back, and just speak the truth. Speak the truth.
What's been the greatest thing that you've learned since you've been here?
So Kirk, Charlie Kirk's wife now, she just recently spoke, and she talked about as women and young women, it is so important for us to enjoy the part of waiting in our life, and I'm absolutely not someone who enjoys waiting. I'm not a patient person. I've never been a patient person, especially when it comes to love or a job or really anything. But specifically in this way, she was talking about love and waiting for it to come. And as young women, I think that's so hard for us. We want the godly Christian conservative man. And, at least I do, I pray that it happens and it happens quickly. I mean, I want to be married and I want that. But she spoke to us and she said, enjoy the wait, enjoy the process, because that process, the whole waiting process, is going to lead you to where you need to be.
My name is Nicole Deluca. I turned 23 years old tomorrow, actually, and I am from Fort Worth, Texas.
Awesome, Nicole. So what would you say being raised right has meant to you?
I think it means like growing up with good moral values, and like I think your parents have a lot to like kind of play into that. And my parents grew up conservative and they raised me that way. And so like I've kind of always had these values, but going to these conferences I've been able to like grow on them and learn more and kind of be able to defend them more.
Yeah, definitely. So we've had some amazing speakers, met some amazing women here, I'm sure. What's been like the best thing that you've learned at this conference?
I really liked hearing from Ali Stuckey and how we can learn to embrace being a woman, you know, in the age where they want to take the E out of women and they say it's a bad thing, there's all these genders, but you know, God made us different for a reason is what she said, and you know, we have gifts as women, and we're different than men, but we should embrace that. There's things that we're meant to do as women, and I really enjoyed that.
Honestly, I think it's been like just kind of being comfortable in my own like conservatism, if that makes sense. I'm actually kind of new to this. I've always had conservative values, but just Turning Point and being involved in stuff like this has only been like the past year for me. So just kind of being like confident, comfortable in that, like feeling that empowerment from like all the many speakers that we've had so far. It's amazing. And just kind of like taking that, being comfortable to take that with me wherever I go.
Yeah, definitely. And then on our show, we're all about empowering young conservatives to take a stance for their beliefs. So what would you say being raised right has meant to you?
I really think like I'm blessed to have amazing parents, and I think I give them credit for so much of that. Yeah. And I think one thing we've heard a lot this weekend too is just like, you know, it's okay to be that wife that, you know, is a strong wife for a strong husband, basically, and just being able to raise kids. And I think that something like that is just something that will, I mean, it can take you further than a lot of other things. Just having those foundations, those structures from an early age. And like I said, I've kind of always had conservative values, but I didn't always know why. Yeah. But I think now kind of knowing what I learned from my parents and knowing what I learned from church and stuff back when I was younger kind of helped me fit into the shoes that I need for the rest of my life now. Yeah, so, yeah.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. My name is Amanda O'Connell. I'm going to be turning 28 this month, and I am from Freeport, Illinois.
Awesome. From all over.
Yes, and fun fact, I drove here from Illinois. It took me straight shot through the night, 16 hours.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, thank you for being here. This is awesome. So, you obviously came a long way for this. Have you learned a lot?
I have, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, and I've never been to any kind of Turning Point USA event, so this is my first time. It's pretty awesome.
What's like the number one thing that you've learned so far?
I think the number one thing is, like, I already knew from experiences that I lost friends for my conservative beliefs. So the biggest thing that I learned was there's so many other people out there who believe the same as I do, and that they're just a whole great community, and like they want to be friends with me. So like I have all these new friends now, and that's the biggest thing, I think.
Yeah, that's great. So what advice would you give to any young conservatives out there that, you know, are kind of lost in their own ways or don't know how to connect or stand up?
Honestly, it's scary, like, because I came here by myself, so just go out, talk to someone, because, like, when I came here, I was walking around the convention center lost. I had no clue where to go. So, like, someone walked up to me and was like, hey, are you going to the Young Women's Leadership Summit too? And I was like, yeah, and then I've just been hanging out with her since. So, like, just go up and talk to someone.
That's awesome. Conservative women are so friendly. That's great.
My name is Aria Adair Parker. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and I am 25 years old, and I am an influencer with Turning Point.
Sweet, thank you so much. So, Aria, why don't you tell us a little about what being raised right has meant to you?
Well, I actually came from a home that wasn't Christian and it wasn't conservative, and so I've kind of had to figure out those values on my own, but I definitely think that being raised right means that you have strong morals, you stand for what you believe in, and you don't let anyone sway that, because I think that that's really important when it comes to like living in America. I think that that's a natural given right that we are born with here, and I think that the moment that you stop fighting for your freedom is the moment that it's taken from you, and so I think that is super important, and yeah, that's what being raised right means to me.
Yeah, I love it. So last question, what advice would you give to young conservatives? I'm sure you have a lot of people reach out to you, but what's like the mass message that you would send to young conservatives?
just don't be scared to stand up for what you believe in. I think that we all come from very different backgrounds, and I know that it's hard to maybe talk to somebody who doesn't believe the same as you, but just treat them with love, like treat them with grace and give them grace, because we are all human and we're all just trying to figure out this thing we call life, and everyone's on a different journey. And I think that that's so important, and especially being a Christian for me, is that I want to love my neighbor as myself, and I would hope that someone would give me a little grace when I mess up or don't truly understand something. But just keep fighting the fight, and I'm proud of you.
Wow, what an amazing group of women. And keep in mind, this is only a handful that I got to talk to out of the 2,500 young women that signed up to be there and listen to the incredible lineup of speakers that Turning Point brought in. You know, I only got to hear a few of those speakers, but I walked away just feeling so empowered and so driven and even more ambitious than I was when I went. So I can only imagine how those women felt when they went home too. And I think that's so important. So anybody listening that's a young woman out there, you know, go to these things, go meet people, go network, go get yourself out there, because it really is a world of networking. And the more people you meet, the more you're connected, the stronger your values become, and the more you learn and the more empowered you can be. And it's such a good feeling. I think for me, the highlight of the week was when I got to meet Kaylee McEnany again in Charlie's makeshift studio room. She came in the last day for her interview on the podcast before she went and spoke. She was one of the closing speakers, and it kind of just hit me of how my journey had somewhat came full circle at that point, because just 8 months ago, I had met Kaylee at a Trump rally in Phoenix, and it was a completely different world then, not only for both of us, but just everywhere. She wouldn't become press secretary for another 3 months. I wouldn't get fired from my position at Blaze for another 5, which I could never have seen coming. COVID hadn't hit the States yet. This is, in February. The election was still a fair fight. Things were just so different then. And so to meet up with her again in a different city under different circumstances, I'm now working for Charlie Kirk and his amazing team. She had a phenomenal run as White House press secretary under President Trump. And life works in mysterious ways. We both had an incredible 8-month journey that could only have been put together by our creator. And then we're kind of reunited again. So that was a standout moment from my experience. And for anybody that got to see any videos or anything on social media, you just got a glimpse of how empowering that this conference was. And so I can't wait to keep traveling and meeting amazing people like this all over the country. And I'll share as much of those journeys as I can with you guys. So thanks for listening. And we'll be back next week to interview some more empowering young conservatives.
Hi everyone, I'm Erica Kirk, and that's my husband talking in the background, and we are at YWLS, and you need to listen to the Raised Right podcast. 100%.
Enjoy this episode of Raised Right? Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app to catch the next episode. And be sure to like and follow us on Instagram at Raised Right Podcast and Facebook and Twitter at Raised Right Pod.